Hi everybody and welcome back to Finding Fashion. Today we're lucky enough to be joined by Salina Thind, who is a makeup artist. She's dialing in direct from Singapore, so it's her late night, so we're really lucky to have her before she goes off to bed. Welcome Salina, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry?
Yes, so I didn't really have anything to do with the industry prior or know anyone, and I did a course at Gemma Kidd Makeup School, which isn't around now, but it was a 6-week course, and you went on and you were taught by Gemma and a makeup artist called Ginny Bogado, who's still in the industry today. And then I started assisting other artists. And back then there wasn't really any social media, so you had to go through agencies. So I started testing with photographers on a website called whoistesting.com, which again doesn't exist anymore. I'm really showing my age here, aren't I? I'm like, so yeah, you would find photographers, and then I would approach agencies after I'd done a couple of tests and just send through like a little intro and a few of the images that I'd managed to get from tests and say, you know, I'd like to assist any of your artists, or if you had a particular like for any of them, sort of mention by name, and they'd get in touch and you'd go on jobs and stuff. And yeah, that was like 15 years ago, 16 years ago, 15. And it kind of just went from there, really.
And what made you decide to become a makeup artist and get into this?
I don't know. Like, I'd always had an interest in makeup, but I never really knew that it could be a career. Yeah. I went to a really academic secondary school and you just went to university. So I went to university and I was doing law. And I was in my final year, and I think what I liked about law was the theory of it all. Like, I was a bit of a nerd, like I enjoyed studying it. I enjoyed doing my dissertation, finished it a week early, like just loved that side of it. But at that point, like, I'd never taken a gap year. So I went straight from, you know, a really academic secondary school into uni, and I just couldn't take another exam. I couldn't read another book. And I thought, why not explore like the creative side? And I thought you just did a course and you become a makeup artist, like maybe you get employed by a company. I don't know. Like, I didn't realize that it was freelance. I didn't realize that you'd be working for yourself, and didn't realize that you'd have to lug your own kit around. Like, I had no clue, but I just was really interested in it. And I think that was probably the better way round, because had I known what goes into it and what goes into being a freelancer in the industry, I may have been a bit scared off. I'm not sure, but I just went into it blind, just thinking, oh, okay, like there's a pattern. This is what you do, and this is where you'll get. Yeah. So after uni, I gave myself 2 years, and I said that if makeup wasn't going anywhere, I'd go back to law and like do the professional exams, become like a solicitor or barrister. And like, literally, I just remember like 10 years down the line, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm a makeup artist now. That's what I am. Like, yeah.
Well, it's all worked out and you've done amazing. Yeah. So it's
been good.
I'm glad the industry didn't lose you.
Thank you.
What do you think is the most valuable skill you've learned as a makeup artist?
God, patience, probably. Because you just need bucket loads of patience, you know, whether you're on set, like the physicality of being a makeup artist or a stylist, just being on set, and the hours that sometimes you're just standing there. And, you know, because if you look at it from my point of view, my busiest is generally at the beginning of the day. And then there's a lot of waiting around unless there's changes. And then just in aspects of, you know, things like getting a call sheet, you've got to wait. You're always waiting for something. You're waiting to get paid. You're waiting for, I just feel like a lot of the job is patience, but also like patience in the sense that knowing when to bite your tongue, knowing when to say what, picking your battles, things like that. I think, yeah, patience and resilience, probably. That's probably my most valuable
very
lesson I've learned. Yeah.
think that's it. Like when you're, and I've been freelance as well, when you're on set, there's so many times when you know, you've got to be responsive to the client, haven't you? And sometimes you think,
definitely,
that might not be what I would normally do. But
no,
you do totally have to bite your tongue. And say, do you know what? It's their shoot. You know, they're calling me there, and I have to respond to you.
Yeah.
And obviously the waiting to be paid thing is annoying.
Oh my God. But it's just because I always think it's like, you know, it's one thing or another, but you're always waiting. But like you say, being responsive to clients, no two clients are the same. There are clients who are like really specific about what they want, how they behave, how they want you to behave, you know, how much input they want from you. And there are others where they just trust you completely and will, you know, won't even send you references. You know that you can just rock up on the shoot, you can have a little chat, and you'll have produced something amazing at the end of it. And there are others that will dictate everything step by step. So it's really interesting.
How do you think that you build up that rapport and that loyalty and that trust with a client?
I think that comes down to just the kind of people that you are. Like it would, even if you met them, regardless of work or a job, if you met them in a social setting, in a family, whatever setting, if you click with someone, you click with someone. You just do. It's hard. Loyalty is a hard one because I think it's so much is dependent on, there's always someone above them. There's always like budgets being cut. So you can never say that you've got this client for life. You just never know. But in terms of how much they trust you to do a good job, I think it just depends on, you know, how much you click, how much they trust you.
And you talked earlier a little bit, touched on how you kind of did some assisting with makeup artists, and a big part of my students' university experience is that they do get work experience in industry, but they have to secure it themselves. Right. How does interning work in the makeup industry?
I think it's probably easier now, I say, because there's less gatekeeping. Because before you'd have to go through the agents and you don't know if your emails were even getting through to so I could email and be like, oh, hi, I'd like to work with so-and-so. You don't know if that's getting through. The agent might not like your work, but you may strike up a rapport or something with the artist themselves. With Instagram and things like that, you can approach them directly. So are you asking as in how would they go about it, or what it kind of,
but also like what happens when you do get that, you know, that assisting work or that shadowing work?
So it would totally depend on, I would say if you're interning or assisting someone for the first time, it's quite rare. In terms of makeup, it's quite rare that you're going to go straight in and start applying makeup. You're going to be there sort of passing brushes, cleaning brushes, offering to make tea. Like the amount of kudos and points you build up just asking if they want a cup of tea and making a good cup of tea exactly how they like it, or a coffee. Like I assisted a makeup artist who used to have her coffee a specific way with 4 sugars. And I just remember wanting to tell her, like, it's 4 sugars, but you know, you just do it, she loves it, and then, you know, and it slowly builds up if they like you, because initially that initial meeting is they're going to see if they like you, and then you sort of build up a relationship, and you'll get taken on jobs where you can apply makeup if there's more than one model, but also you're going to learn a lot. Like I learned so much more assisting than I did on a course, like you just will. And it wasn't just makeup, it was on-set etiquette, how to behave on, you know, like big commercial shoots, and make sure you're not standing in front of the monitor if the client's trying to get a look, and, you know, things like that. And also the business side of things. I had one makeup artist so when I started assisting, I just sort of fell into assisting a really wide range of artists. One was like super high fashion, one was a lot of commercial work, one did a lot of beauty stuff. And I remember the one that did the commercial work, she always said, never accept a job if you don't know what the fee is. Always ask about money. And, you know, as an assistant, you never do, because you just want to assist and stuff. And she's like, even if you're assisting, she's like, so many people forget that this is still a job, it's not a hobby. And I think that was really important, because so many of my peers would be taking jobs and being like, oh, I've got to get in touch because I don't know what the rate is. And I was like, the job was last week. How do you not? I'm the kind of person that will invoice on the day as soon as the job is done. So I think that was a really valuable lesson, because it wasn't just about the creative side of things. It was about looking after yourself and making sure you're running a business, you know. So I think I've gone off track there a bit, Hannah. What was the question? Internally, what was it like? Yeah, I mean, you're going to do a wide variety of stuff when you're assisting, and you've got to do it with a smile. Don't be sitting in the corner on your phone, you know. Yeah, mobile phones are sort of less common when I was assisting, again, showing my age. Now I think, yeah, be on your phone as little as possible, because there's nothing more frustrating than, you know, you kind of want your assistants to preempt what you need and what the client needs, kind of thing.
And when you did start to kind of do makeup, and when you were assisting and shadowing, what kind of things did they let you do when you were kind of starting out?
So, trying to think. So the first fashion week show that I went on, I wasn't allowed to do any makeup. I was given the task of doing the nails for the girls. It was just a basic, so any girls that came through, get their nails done. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't paid, so I was just like, really want to do makeup, I don't want to do nails. But you did it with a smile on your face. And then as it progressed, I then went along and you were able to, you know, do makeup on the girls and things. It just really varies. Like I say, it just depends. So a lot of the time, if I was assisting, it would be doing extras, for example. So the makeup artist would be doing the main person, and then they'd have like either 2 or 3 extra people, and she'd want you to do them. Yeah, London Fashion Week is always a good one. You know, you kind of learn a lot because you learn speed. You get the girls kind of thrown at you. And I remember at one show we had 5 minutes to go till they were in final lineup, and we still hadn't had the last girl. And then she kind of came barreling through the door, and 3 of us were sent to like get on her, and one person had one eye, one person had this, the hairstylist, 3 of them behind her. So yeah, you learn a lot and you do a lot of different things. Yeah.
And obviously gaining a good reputation in the industry is so key and so powerful. Mm-hmm. And you talked about kind of now it's different, you know, that you can get you know, get to people on social media and, you know, through their age. But what do you think is a really good way of gaining those contacts?
I think it's word of mouth. I think a lot of the jobs that I've got and keep getting will be through someone that I've met on a job, and it kind of snowballs on there, and you strike up a relationship, and then you're recommended. You just have to be someone on set who people want to be around work-wise. If you're someone that isn't enthusiastic, and I'm not talking over the top, I'm just saying, you know, you want to do your job, because there are so many other people out there that want to do these jobs, wants to be makeup artists, stylists. And when you get on set and you're with someone who isn't as, you know, almost like they can't be bothered to be there, they're a bit over it. And I mean, we all have those days, but don't bring that to work with you, especially as a freelancer, don't bring that to work with you. So I think if you're somebody that, yeah, people want to be around and you're good at your job, that's, you know, that's half the reason most of the reason you get employed, you're good at your job. But also, I think, yeah, just being a person that people want to be around, I think.
And you've got your blog, and obviously you post on social media as well.
Yeah.
I think that it's important to be shouting about your work on social media. I
think you have to. I think back in the day, it was very much your website was your calling card, or your physical portfolio, and people would have meetings, you take that along. And I think now people are looking at your social media presence first. So regardless of, I think these days, even if you just had an Instagram, you would probably do better than, you know, because that's what people want to see. They want to, it's showing your current work, it's showing who you work with. Yeah, and you need to sell yourself. That's what social media is these days. You do need to shout about it from the rooftops, but it's also about building relationships, because from a makeup point of view, with PRs, you know, you're using their products, you're showing those products off. In turn, you're either gifted those products, and some of that leads to jobs. You know, you can The thing is, with social media, there's so much content that needs to be produced now for brands. You're not just doing those big beauty campaigns or fashion campaigns, you're doing shoots for social media, so it can lead to work. But also, like you mentioned, how are you getting clients and things like that? Social media is a good way to keep reminding your clients that you're around. So if you follow your clients and they follow you back, kind of thing, and you're posting about your work, they're seeing what other work you do. And you're I've had instances where I've posted a past shoot or something, and a client's been scrolling and got in touch and be like, oh, actually, we've got this shoot on Thursday, can you do it? So it's just things like that. It is constant.
I think it's so much more beneficial. I remember going freelance and having to spend out £500 on a leather portfolio. And it wasn't
from the House of Portfolios. Did you get it? From Jonathan. Was it Jonathan?
Yeah, he was making an absolute killing.
He was like the only guy.
I know, it's amazing. I mean, it's gorgeous. I've still got it, but do I look at it?
Me too. No.
But social media is fantastic, and it's such an amazing development for the creative industries with hair and makeup, because it is so current, and with all behind the scenes content and like really showing off your work.
So much.
It's an amazing platform. So it's one of the really, really good things to come out of social media is that.
Yeah, but I mean, even as an artist starting, if sort of before you couldn't get access to photographers that you liked maybe to do the test shoots, and everything you were doing wasn't quite, but you're good at what you do, and even doing makeup on yourself and putting those pictures up, if you're asking to assist someone and they've got that as a sort of reference, they can go back and be like, actually, she does do skin beautifully, or she does do this beautifully. You're still sort of logging what you can do, even though you haven't got a portfolio together yet.
And you've worked on pretty much every aspect of the industry, from editorials to commercial work to red carpet events, done everything. How do you think that, thinking about your portfolio, that working on those different briefs and for those different clients has benefited your portfolio?
I think it just helps you build different skills, but just going back to the reason my portfolio is so varied is because of the artists that I assisted that were so varied. But I remember back then they were saying, you really need to specialize. So I remember the high fashion makeup artist that I assisted, she said, if you want to do fashion, you've got to just do fashion. And yeah, you do, but I couldn't make enough money assisting, and there just wasn't. And I had so many other avenues that I was getting assisting work and I was making enough to get by. But each one involves different things. Like if you're doing an editorial, you can jump in as often as you want to fix things, change things. If you're working on like a commercial or something, you've got to use products that are a bit more long wearing maybe, because the director isn't going to let you jump in every 2 minutes. So you've got to make sure what you've put on is going to stay. Same for red carpet. You've got to think, makeup isn't just putting makeup on and using products that you love. Like there are so many products that I love, but I know aren't going to do well under, intense lights or on a red carpet. I know that if I put this lip on, it's not going to be there in like 5 hours when it really needs to be. And just things like that. So you learn about lighting, you learn about the longevity of things. So yeah, I think it helps a lot.
And how
the different things you do.
And when you're working for them, how do you work with them to kind of suggest different hair and makeup looks?
With clients. That's a tricky one because it depends. Again, it depends if the client is receptive. If they're receptive to your input, then it can work quite well. Otherwise, what you end up doing, if it's someone who's got a really specific look, for example, like a specific hairstyle, but the model that turns up hasn't got the hair that's going to give them the desired effect, some clients just won't want to hear it. They're just kind of like, that's what we want. So you have to do it to show them. They have to take that first shot and say, and let them see it and say, actually, that doesn't work. even though that's what you said 2 hours ago. It just doesn't. Like, and sometimes they do see it. So you can, you can give, I think always, if you're throwing a problem at them, make sure you've got a solution. Don't just be like, I can't do this, because at the end of the day, they've employed you for a reason. So you have to be able to do it. But if you say, that's not going to work, but what about this? And if you don't like it, it can come off. Like, that's another thing. Like, we're not chopping anything off. We're not, if you don't like this certain style of eyeliner, then it can come off. But let's just try it. And some people will be like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I think it's just about communication.
Yeah. That's got to be the key thing, isn't it? Because when you are working in the creative fields, interpretation is, it can be so skewed, can't it? So your interpretation of like a smoky eye can be someone totally different to
100%
somebody else's. Do you find it really helpful to get a specific brief from a client?
Yes, because then I know exactly what they want. If I know that I'm happy in the sense that I'm happy to suggest stuff if that's what you want me to do. And I love nothing more than like going through Pinterest and Instagram and like getting a mood board together. Like, that's half the fun of it. But I think if you have someone that knows what they want, especially these days when budgets are tight, time is, so you're trying to do a lot in a day. If they know what they want, it makes it a lot easier. But that doesn't mean that they're not receptive, so they can come up with something really specific and you can be like, that's just not going to work. Communication, it's just communication. But like you say, like, the interpretation is such, when some people think smoky eye, they think a full-on black panda eye, when there are so many different interpretations of a smoky eye, or like a natural makeup look. Like, what's natural to one person is not the same as what's natural to another. So that's why I think it's all well and good to be like, generally this is what we want, but it's better to have them bring you something solid. And then you can like work around that. You can, add to it or take it off, or
I think that works for everything, doesn't it? Like, whether you're a stylist, whether you're a photographer, whether you're a creative director, makeup artist, hairstylist, like, there's so much room for interpretation. And actually, like, if you go on set with quite a clear idea of what you want, but you're also receptive, that can make it such a nicer, vibe to work in.
Definitely. It's the clients that come and they know what they don't want. When no matter what you should, they're like, no, we don't want that. No, we don't want that. And it's hard to know what they do want. Or the ones that say, oh, do whatever you like. And it's like, that's like, for a paying client, that's like a recipe for disaster, because we could be here all day. Like, I've had like clients be like, just whatever you think, like, these are the clothes, like, whatever you think. And it's like, that's fair enough if you're not going to veto every single idea. But if you're just like, no, it just makes it so much harder. And then that's added time pressure, because you're not going to get all the looks done. And, it's all makeup's fault, because, and that's why I think when they're like that, you need to send references through. But then there was like, we'll just have a chat on the day. And it's just, it's difficult, and it's different with every client.
And you've worked for so many different clients, from Vogue India to GQ, Glamour, and commercial clients like Olay and Garnier. But it's so difficult to tailor your work to different looks. And editorial is obviously very different to commercial. How do you tweak your work for commercial versus editorial?
I think the main thing is, which some people forget, and I've seen it on like smaller jobs, but there are jobs where it's just not about the hair and it's not about the makeup. So when you do like the commercial jobs, like Olay or Garnier, so the Garnier shoot was real women, for example. Like, it wasn't about the makeup, it just had to be clean and fresh and whatever, but it's not about the makeup. And there are shoots where they're editorial beauty stories, it is about the makeup. So you've got to see who you're working with. Are you working with real people? Yes, then you just need to make them feel like them. So there's no point, spending ages doing a fancy makeup look with like a winged liner or like, that's not what it's not about that. Same with like grooming and things like that. It's not about the makeup, so you want as little as possible. I think it's just looking at the product. What are you working on, and what are you trying to sell generally?
Yeah.
You know, so if you're being super creative, then you can be. I've been on commercial shoots where I'll be doing makeup and then I'll have a hairstylist, because I do both. I do makeup and hair, and a lot of the time it's combined, so I do both. But I've had shoots where there's a hairstylist, and you know, it's not a beauty shoot or anything, it's just, I don't know, like an ad for like a mop or something, like just a commercial shoot, like, as you know, so glam. The hairstylist will spend ages making it about the hair, like making sure it's all perfect, and you can still make it good, but you don't have to be there every second of the shoot, sort of tweaking everything. You kind of need to know what you're shooting and adapt to that sort of style. Yeah,
working with everybody else as well, so like they like the
definitely
as well, like looking at the clothes, like you're all there as a team, aren't you?
Yeah
Together.
Yeah, like things like when me and you work together, for example. So if you've got an outfit on a girl and you know she's got a big old collar or a pussy bow blouse or whatever, you know, make sure that the hair isn't covering it, because it's about if we're shooting it's a fashion story or whatever, like work together, like the hair can still be beautiful, but it doesn't just all need to be there, kind of thing. So it's things like that, and I think sometimes people forget that. I see that on shoots a lot.
And obviously there's so many hair and makeup trends that emerge from social media, catwalk, street style, you know, red carpet. How do you keep up? Because there's so many.
There is, and more. And I think it's like loads of different ways. So scrolling Instagram, looking at the shows when they happen, the trends that they come out, that come out of that. Also, for me, you get a lot of PRs getting into touch. So, you know, their beauty PRs are as on it with the trends. So when shows happen, they'll send whoever sponsored the show, this is how they got the look. And so it kind of snowballs. So that keeps you up to date as well. But it also means that you're then using those products on your shoots and getting those kind of looks with colours, with certain eyeshadow palettes. And yeah, so it's just, again, social media makes that easy as well. So we keep up to date with the trends. Yeah,
like, it's amazing that so many designers now are choosing to
go online,
all of their like catwalks online, because it makes it accessible to everybody. Like what used to be like an elitist event is actually for everybody, which is amazing.
I mean, it's massively changed. I remember when I first started assisting on Fashion Week shows, and backstage was not dead, but you just had the people who were, you know, working on the show. And towards the end of my assisting, when I stopped doing shows, I remember we were doing Topshop, I think it was, and it was Hannah Murray who was head makeup artist, and she was trying to get everyone ready for final lineup, and we were all kind of like, where do we go, like how do we get through the throng of photographers that were just in front of the final line? And she just kind of gave up at one point. She was just like, I can't get through the photographers, like I just can't, like we can do our job because everything was just being shot then and there. And I also remember it changed, as in, you know, while you were doing makeup, you'd have a photographer here and a photographer here, like trying to get the shot. And before the shows even happen, all of that's out on social media, and I'm just like, it kind of ruins it a bit.
You reckon? It's not it's available to everybody, but then I suppose it is like such an amazing.
No, I mean available as in like as the show's going out, stream it live. But I just think the backstage kind of. But I guess that's what people like now. People like the behind the scenes stuff, and you know, that's what's interesting, I guess.
You must.
But maybe we just need bigger spaces to work in.
Yeah, you must have to keep a really cool head, like in such
definitely
environment.
Definitely.
So much pressure.
Yeah.
How do you go about those trends that emerge? Like, how do you go about kind of putting them into your own work? Do you find that then that reflects a lot of like the briefs that you're getting through, or do you like to tweak your work based on what the trends that are emerging?
I think it depends on the job, really. Like if it's a commercial job, they're not going to be that worried, to be honest, about trends. It's normally just about making the person look like themselves, nothing that's going to stand out. but you also do shoots for clients that, like, for example, when we used to do the Specsavers shoots together, that was very much trend led, wasn't it? So with colours and things like that. So you did a bit more of that. But sometimes it can just be like a nod to it. So, you know, if like there's a blue liner trending or something, you can do a nod to it, as in, you know, make it a navy colour, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, it doesn't have to be copied exactly. You can always make something more accessible and more mainstream.
Yeah. What do you think is the most challenging thing of being a makeup and hair artist?
Oh, the most challenging thing is probably the instability of it all. I think because you never know. I used to have a friend who would always say, like, this could be your last job and you'll never work again. Like, and I was like, I'm well aware, you know, that's never going to be, this isn't the end of the world. But it was very much like preparing you for the worst, that, you know, you have to be as good as you can be on every job, because you know, something could happen, and it could be your last for that, either that client or whatever. I mean, it's not that severe, but I think it is the instability of it all. Yeah, you know, like when not so much now, but when you first start, you kind of take every job, work whatever hours that you would have to. You wouldn't really question it, which meant, you know, making plans with friends, you'd be the one that'd be like, oh, I don't know. And they'd be like, no, but what time do you finish work? And it's like, no, I don't actually know. Like, I'll finish when I finish, kind of thing. Like, I'm assisting. I can't ask anyone, like, hi, what time do I finish? But yeah, the more you do, the more you kind of have a bit more control. But yeah, I would say the instability. What about for you? What do you think is the most challenging in our industry?
It's kind of the similar sort of thing, because when I was freelance, what I really liked was, you know, not being on the same job the whole time. I loved doing loads of different things, and I found with that I always had to bring my A game. Like, whereas where you work full time, you can have like off days, can't you?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're freelance, you have to literally go with your A game every single time. I think for a stylist, it's really challenging to work with clients to interpret those briefs, really. Because, like, some people's opinion of something might be completely different, or like you've worked with real people, like you work with so many times I've worked with, you know, real people on shoots, which I really, really like. But, you know, you can swear blind that they've got, you know, the best in the world. And if they don't believe it, then there's no way that you're going to get them in that dress that you'd planned out for them.
No,
you have to
definitely not.
And I think it's then managing people's expectations as well. So, like, if it's your client and you've got them there saying, like, I remember working on a shoot with like the cast from like The Only Way is Essex ages ago, and, you know, they really wanted me to put one of the girls in this outfit, and she was like, I don't like it, I don't feel confident. And then it's like, well, I'm not going to make you feel rubbish by forcing you to go. Like, you're never going to take an amazing shot if you don't feel confident.
I was going to say, you're just not going to get a good picture.
Yeah, and then you have to feed it back to the client, and it's managing that kind of expectation there. And
I know.
I liked being freelance. I loved it, and doing lots of different things. But the instability is worrying. Like, I remember stepping out and being like, I don't actually know how I'm going to pay my rent. But I mean, it has its moments. Like the stories, though, just the stories that you hear, and the jobs that you come across and things. It's a fun industry. Yeah, it is fun. I love it. Going back to talking about real people, you've worked with some absolute goddesses, from Gillian Anderson, who I am loving, Duchess of York, Princess Davina McCall. Like, she's worked with them all. How does it feel to make those people feel amazing and make women feel their most confident?
I think that's the most rewarding part. I think after you've made someone up, done their hair, and at the end they do feel amazing. But I would say that's more for real people than, you know, celebs. I feel like you'll do a good job and they'll love it, but for them they would get it anyway, you know, as in that they have an image, you've got to stick to that image and that kind of thing. But I think the most rewarding is when it's real people, and you kind of, you know, either they've never had their makeup done before, or they just don't like makeup, or they've just never really had the time or energy to make an effort. That's when it's like the most rewarding, I think. Yeah.
I feel like that way with clothes. I think when you can make someone feel amazing in something that they're wearing, it's such a lovely feeling, because they, you know, you can see it in their face, can't you?
Yeah, it's really nice, I think.
And men's grooming is and men's makeup as well, such a massively growing market at the moment.
Massively.
You've worked with quite a lot of men as well. How do you think attitudes have changed to men wearing makeup? Have you seen that change in the industry?
I think definitely. I think in the sense that, so when I'm doing sort of male celebs and stuff for like grooming and whatever, they're just so used to having makeup put on them from the films that they work on or the numerous press events they do. So it wasn't, you'd never get somebody that would be like, oh no, like you would just do it. It was quite a normal thing. It was more, again, when you're working on real people, you know, so if you were doing things like a corporate event and making up sort of CEOs or things like that, and they'd be like, you'd get, you know, the amount of times I've been asked, you know, oh, are you going to get the red lipping out? And it's like, no, you're going to a business meeting or like whatever your speech you're going to go give. But it's very much like, oh no, I don't want any makeup. But I just think it's so much more mainstream now. You've got Harry Styles, you know, with the dressing, he's wearing more effeminate clothes and nail varnish, and it's just more normal. I think just generally everything's a bit more open now, I think, from before. And there's so many more brands that are tailored to men. I think the first one I can think of was, I think Clinique did something, or even like a skincare range specifically sort of aimed at men. And then you have like Chanel recently came out with their sort of, I think they called it boy, or their boy range, and it was like an eyeliner and like a concealer pen and just things like, there's not stigma attached to it anymore. You know, there's nothing wrong if someone wants to get a concealer out and hide the dark circles or the blemishes. It's just shows that they made a bit of an effort, if anything.
I think it makes a really positive move for the brands that are around right now to be, you know, showing that this message that men wearing makeup is, there's no stigma attached to it anymore.
No,
like
it's just more inclusive.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic.
Definitely.
And how do you think that makeup is used to play a part in expressing individuality?
I just think by its very nature, you know, anyone has access to it. You can use your face as your canvas. It's impermanent, so you can try as many looks as you want. It's not going to cost a lot. Like makeup brands around these days that are really good but budget friendly. So you look at any of Boots and Superdrug, you've got so many different brands there, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. So whether it's, you know, a red lip or a bold lip or a black lip or a blue lip, and you can just express yourself however you like. It's
so powerful, isn't it? And you can be a totally different person, can't you? Like just
definitely
putting a different type of makeup on. Like some days I feel, you know, I'm not the best with makeup, of course, but you know, some days you feel a bit more like rocky, or you feel a bit more girly, and you can express that with makeup.
Yeah, you know, if you want to make a bold statement that day, or if you just kind of, you know, you don't want to, you just want to be a bit more fresh. But it's entirely up to you, I think. And yeah, like I say, it's so accessible. It's you know, it's cheap. It's a cheaper way to do it. You don't have to keep. Whereas clothes are a bit more expensive. You know, a lipstick isn't going to be that expensive. So I just feel like it's a bit more accessible.
Well, they talk about the lipstick effect, the fact that in times of economic downturn, people are more likely to buy a new lipstick because you know, it's affordable.
Definitely.
So good.
Well, perhaps not in Corona times, but generally, yes.
Your makeup bag must be absolutely bulging. What's the one project that never fails you?
This is a really hard one, I think, because Well, I managed to break it down into my favorite like makeup and then my favorite skincare kind of thing that I can do without. So a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but MAC Face and Body foundation is my one thing that I always need to have in my kit, and is one of my like I will always repurchase, because I get gifted a lot of stuff. I can always sort of slot in other things for other things, but MAC Face and Body, because it just works across the board. Like if I'm doing men's grooming, it's perfect. If I'm working on women and they've got good skin, perfect for that. You can build it up. You can use it on arms and legs, as you know, to give a bit of colour, even out skin tone. So for me, it would be that. And skincare wise, it would be Weleda Skin Food, just because like you can do so much with it, and it's a bit of a lifesaver sometimes.
I carry it everywhere. I love
it's so good.
Do you think that it's worthwhile getting the lip one as well?
I haven't tried. I've been dying to try the lip one and the body butter. I just haven't got around to it. But give it a try, because it's not expensive either.
No.
Get it.
And the last question is, because I've been absolutely dying to ask you since this Zoom call started, where's your lipstick from and what shade is it?
This is Sephora's lip paint in like, I think 01.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite reds, and it doesn't move. Does not move.
What an excellent recommendation. Thank you so much. It looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you, and I hope we get you back from Singapore soon.
Not too long.
So lovely to see you, and thank you so much.
You too, Hannah.
I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Yeah. Bye.